5,000 people meditate there. So many people understand the inward stroke, but we need both strokes. This can be sort of presented as an image not only of the law of the inner and the outer, the inner, but also the relationship between your individual strokes and the collective strokes. And this is something very essential today in the world, because the world needs to be understood as a collective entity. And we are failing in the world because we don't know how to manage the collective. What happens in the United States happens everywhere. It's not that just happens here. When the dollar goes under or the budget deficit goes too high, the impact in our economy is immense. If tomorrow the euro disappears, this is going to be tremendous for the rest of the world, even if the euro is not as encompassing as the dollar. If China collapses economically, then we know what's going to happen. So this interdependence of the individual and the collective is also a way to present this issue of this other shoe. So I see spirituality in a sense not only as a matter of individual enlightenment, but also as a matter of collective enlightenment. And I have discussed this, and I have done my presentations in Thailand to many monks about, that spirituality is like a funnel upside down. You must do your work. Nobody will save you from doing your work. But then you are in the outer stroke, and then you are in human reality, and my connection with you changes me, and I come back again to my spirituality, my individual self, and then I go out, in and out. It's like, I see this as a upside down funnel. I'll give you the floor as I finish. Or no, you're taking pictures. Sorry, I thought you were raising your hand. Now, what is the other shoe? For the Buddha, the outer stroke is embedded in what the Buddha called the Eightfold Path. In other words, what you gain in inner stroke very much depend on whether you follow the Eightfold Path. What you do in the Eightfold Path very much depend on your inner stroke. So there is a dialectic connection between the form of inner growth, inner practice, and outer practice. And the Buddha said, that there are 8 steps that one needs to consider. I will not develop them in detail because of time, so we do some meditation, but I will enumerate them with a small explanation. And the Buddha said that actually these 8 elements are hierarchically organized. It's not like you can shuffle the cards and say, well, number 8 is now for me number 5, and 5 is 7. You can do, of course, we can do whatever we want with the teachings, but the way he taught it, he said the first thing is not action. So if we're going to change the world, I'm talking about the other shoe now. He said the first thing we need to do is to have the right vision or the right understanding. This word in Pali has been translated in 4 or 5 different terms, but I think the right understanding, it's a good way of translating. So if you don't have the right vision or the right understanding of changing the world, you don't know where you're going to take this whole thing about. So the Buddha was asked in the sutra by one of his disciples, how do I know what is the right view or the right understanding? And he was very categorical. At that point, I actually, anecdotically speaking, I closed the book to answer myself this question and see whether I was close or very far from the Buddha. Actually, it was very far. And the Buddha answer was very simple but very pointed. He said, the way to know whether you have attained the right vision is when you have the full understanding of the wrong vision. And he said that the most dangerous people in the world are those who do not have the ability to understand the wrong vision, that they are in the wrong vision, and so it's impossible to teach them anything, because in the end they are not teachable. So first, I want to hear it, the right understanding. I want to hear it. Number one, right understanding. The second was not action again, which was very interesting, you know. The Buddha said that you need to have the right way of thinking, the right intent, the right thoughts. In other words, there is a mechanics of how to get into action. And so the first was the right vision or the right understanding. The second was the right thinking or the right thoughts or the right intent. So sometimes people have the right vision. Many political parties have the right vision. Many religions have the right vision. But it's not clear what the intent is sometimes, you know. The third was not action again, which was interesting, you know, to follow this path. The third is the right language or the right speech. Words create, sounds create. For Christians, this is very well known. St. John's 1:1. What does it say? In the beginning there was the Word, you know. But we know how the Word creates. If I say you are an idiot, I will create anger in you. You know, I know that my word creates. But the idea here is not to do that, is to create a space for language, for discourse that will enable us to change the world, that is compatible with our intent, our way of thinking, and with our understanding of the right vision. So number one, number two, and number three, language. How about doing it all together? Number one, number two, and number three. The Buddha said that only number four is the right action. So we cannot go out with half of the shoe. We're going to go and act, you know, if we don't know what the vision is, if we don't know what the intent or the thinking, and we don't know the right language, this is not going to work for us. So if you're talking about decisions in your personal life, this also applies. If you talk about government, this also applies. If you talk about religion, it also applies. The fifth was the right livelihood, the right behavior. Depends again on how you translate. You can have the right action, but maybe your behavior is not very good. For example, there are many people who take action, like there is a lady on the street and I go with Myra and Myra is accompanying me, or Leo, we are there, and I put $10 in the hand of this panhandler, you know. Right action. I gave a lot of money. But then I turned back to her and I said, did you see? Wrong behavior, you know. It's not right. We cannot change the world and then have a behavior that counters our proposal in changing the world. Number 6 is the right effort. This is very important. If we are going to change the world, we need the right effort. But let me make sure here that it's not about quantity. It's about the quality of the experience. You know, there was one Christ and there are millions of Christians. There was one Buddha and there are millions of Buddhists. You know, there is one Muhammad and the millions of Muslims. You know, there is one Abraham and there are millions. So you don't need really to have 7 billion people changing the world. You know, you need quality of your experience in the inner stroke and quality of the experience in the outer stroke. And maybe if all of us here only decide to change the world, maybe the world will change like this. The next one, number 7, is the right mindfulness, the right awareness, that you are at the gate of everything. You are not passively sitting in your living room, that you are permanently, you know, aware of this change, permanently aware of the self, permanently aware of your feelings, you know. And the Buddha writes a lot about mindfulness in relation to our feelings, because sometimes it's our feelings that put us into the wrong path. into the wrong action. And last but not least is the right concentration. In this case also can be translated, after I talk about the inward stroke, about the right meditation. So number 1, the right understanding. Number 2, the right intent. Number 3, the right language. Number 4, the right action. Number 5, the right livelihood, behavior. Number 6, the right effort. Number 7, right mindfulness, right awareness. And number 8, the right concentration or the right meditation. This is gold. Take it. Put it at the service of your life. This is the right shoe. And what is important, another question of the Buddha that says, how do I motivate people to go for the right view or the right understanding? Because obviously, how do I begin this process? And the Buddha was very categorical. The only way to get people to move into this direction is with number 8, which is the right concentration or the right meditation, which is a transformer. Now let me put the two shoes together. Is that actually your inner experience of the inner stroke that you do with whatever form of meditation you have, whatever path you take to change the world, will depend on how many times you have gone through the spiral of the second shoe, which is the right vision, the right intent, the right language, the right action, the right livelihood, the right effort, the right mindfulness, and the right concentration. So the more you get into the outer stroke, the better will be your inner stroke. And the more you get into a inner stroke, the more you get into the other stroke. How do you walk? You walk in life by moving one leg first. The other one must be standing still. Otherwise you're hopping. But you don't realize that, but that's the way we walk. Huh? You just go one step. This is very important because if you are going to be all the time on the top of one shoe, it will be very difficult to walk. If you're only, whatever the shoe, whether the inward stroke alone, without the outward stroke, it will be very difficult to change the world. So my proposal tonight is that it is very important to understand which part of the Eightfold Path is missing for you. You know, you might have the best vision of your life as an individual, the top of the funnel. Or you're totally disintegrated with society, so it's very difficult to be in the collective. Or, you know, you have the right vision of who you are, but you have the wrong effort. I'll give you an example. My terrible dilemma in life is that my definition of love has many terabytes, but my computer has only some gigabytes. So when I put the CD, you know, the computer sometimes doesn't compute. So you might have this incredible definition of who you are, but it needs to be compatible with this computer, which is your outer stroke. You know, in your inner stroke, you might say love, compassion, justice are 5 terabytes. But then you need to work on your computer to be able to create your capacity to hold those terabytes. So changing the world is a process that requires intense engagement from all of us. You know, you cannot sit on the sideline and just say, well, thank you very much. You know, someone else will do it.